There is a version of your life where you earn more than you ever have and you still feel broke. Not dramatically broke, not behind on rent broke, just that low-grade persistent feeling that the money never quite stays, that no matter how much comes in, the margin never seems to grow. And the frustrating part is, from the outside, everything looks fine. You have the apartment, you have the car, you have the subscriptions and the wardrobe and the gadgets. You have all the things that are supposed to add up to a comfortable life. And somehow, at the end of every month, the number in your account tells a different story. If that feeling is familiar, I want to offer you a different explanation than the one most financial content will give you. It is probably not that you need to earn more. It is probably not that you need a better budget template or a stricter spending tracker. The problem for most people in that situation is that their life has quietly become expensive in ways they have never stopped to examine, and the solution is not addition, it is subtraction. Today we're going to talk about minimalism as a financial strategy, not minimalism as a design aesthetic, not minimalism as a personality type for people who own 3 shirts and photograph empty rooms. I mean the core financial principle underneath all of it, which is this. Every single thing you own and every single thing you buy carries a cost that extends far beyond the price tag. And once you start seeing those hidden costs clearly, the entire way you make financial decisions changes. I'm going to walk you through specific rules, not vague ideas, actual rules you can apply this week to how you spend, what you keep, and how you think about what you actually need. And toward the end, I want to redefine a word that I think most people are using incorrectly, because how you define wealth determines every single financial decision you make. Stick around for that one. Let us start with the thing nobody tells you when you walk into a store or open a shopping app. The price on the tag is not what something costs. It is what it costs to acquire. Those are 2 completely different numbers. Think about a jacket you bought 2 years ago that's been hanging in your closet unworn. You paid $120 for it, but if you wore it twice, the real cost of that jacket was $60 per use. Now think about a $10 item you use every single day, 365 uses a year. The cost per use on that $10 item is essentially nothing. It's delivering value every single time. This is called cost per use, and it's one of the most clarifying lenses you can apply to any purchase decision. Before you buy something, the question is not, can I afford this? The question is, how many times will I realistically use this, and is that number high enough to justify the price? A $300 pair of running shoes that you wear 4 times a week for 3 years has a cost per use of roughly 11 cents. A $300 pair of dress shoes you wear twice a year has a cost per use of about $8 per use. Same price, completely different financial reality. When you start running this calculation habitually, something interesting happens. You stop being drawn to cheap things that you'll barely use, and you stop being deterred by expensive things that will genuinely serve you for years. Your spending becomes more precise, less impulsive, more aligned with what actually adds value to your life versus what just felt like a good idea at the register. But cost per use only helps with new purchases. What about everything you already own? What about the stuff that's already in your home, your closet, your garage, quietly costing you money you're not even tracking? This is where the second rule comes in, and I want you to actually try this, not just think about it. Go through your possessions category by category and ask yourself one question about each item. If this disappeared tomorrow, would I spend my own money to replace it? Not your parents' money, not a gift card, not a windfall, your own money out of your own account right now. Would you replace it? That question is ruthless in the best possible way, because most of us have accumulated things under completely different circumstances. We bought something when we had different interests or a different living situation, or when something was on sale and felt like a deal, or because we thought we would use it more than we did. And now those things just live in our space, collecting dust, occupying storage, requiring occasional maintenance, and never prompting us to examine whether they are actually worth keeping. The financial cost of unused possessions is more real than most people appreciate. Storage units in America have become a $15 billion industry. People are paying monthly fees to store things they don't use because their homes are full of other things they don't use. There's also the psychological cost, which research in environmental psychology consistently links to physical clutter and elevated stress and reduced cognitive clarity. Your possessions are not neutral, they have weight. And when you're carrying a lot of weight, it affects your decision-making in ways you don't always consciously notice. The replacement test forces a moment of honesty. It bypasses the sentimental logic and the sunk cost reasoning and the maybe I'll use it someday thinking. It asks one clean question, and the answer tells you everything you need to know about whether something belongs in your life. Now, I want to talk about one of the most expensive habits in modern consumer culture, and it's one that's been specifically engineered to feel completely normal. Upgrading functional things because newer versions exist. Your phone works. It opens every app you use. It takes photos that are indistinguishable from professional quality images. It does everything a phone needs to do. And yet, every single year, there's a cultural moment designed to make that functional, perfectly good phone feel inadequate. The new model comes out, the ads start, your feed fills with comparison videos, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice starts suggesting that maybe it is time. That voice is not yours. It was put there deliberately by people whose job it is to manufacture dissatisfaction with things that are still working perfectly well. The average American replaces their smartphone every 2 to 3 years. At an average cost of about $1,000 per device, that is roughly $300 to $500 a year every year on a device that did not need replacing. Over a decade, that is $3,000 to $5,000. Invested instead at a modest 7% annual return, that is somewhere between $40,000 and $70,000 by retirement, from one product category, one item. The minimalist financial rule here is simple but requires actual commitment. Do not replace what is functional. Not for novelty, not for marginal upgrades, not because the new version exists. Replace things when they stop serving you adequately, not when the marketing cycle tells you it is time. This applies to phones, cars, appliances, furniture, clothing, and virtually every category of consumer product that has been engineered with a planned obsolescence cycle. The version of you who buys a used car and drives it for 10 years and buys a 2-year-old phone and uses it until it stops working is not behind. That person is playing an entirely different game than everyone else in the showroom, and they are quietly winning it. Here's something most financial advice gets backward. It focuses almost entirely on motivation and discipline. Save more, spend less, make better choices, be stronger than your impulses. And that advice is not wrong exactly, but it completely misunderstands the nature of the problem. The research on decision-making is unambiguous. Willpower is a finite resource. It depletes throughout the day. And in a world that has been optimized at an extraordinary level of sophistication to trigger purchasing behavior, relying on willpower alone is like bringing a plastic fork to a knife fight. You're going to lose eventually, not because you're weak, but because the system you're up against is genuinely very good at what it does. The minimalist financial response to this is not to become stronger. It is to change the architecture of your environment so that spending requires effort and saving requires none. What does that look like practically? Remove your stored credit card information from every shopping site and app. That single step adds friction to every impulse purchase. Instead of one click, you now have to get up, find your wallet, type in 16 digits, an expiration date, and a security code. That 30 seconds of inconvenience is enough to interrupt the impulse loop for a significant percentage of purchases. Studies on this are consistent. Friction reduces spending. Implement a waiting rule on any non-essential purchase above a threshold you set yourself. Some people use 24 hours, some use 72, some use a week. The specific number matters less than the existence of the rule. Because what you discover, almost universally, when you wait before buying something, is that the urgency was not real. The thing you felt you needed today is something you have completely forgotten about by Thursday. That feeling was not need, it was stimulus, and stimulus fades. At the same time, make saving automatic and invisible. Before your paycheck ever reaches your checking account, route a percentage of it into a separate account you do not think of as spendable. Name that account something that feels meaningful to you. Freedom Fund, Future Self, whatever reframe makes it feel like gain rather than loss. Then live on what remains. You'll adjust. Everyone does. And you will stop experiencing the saved money as money you gave up because you never had the chance to experience it as money you had. That asymmetry, spending requiring effort and saving requiring none, is the system the quietly wealthy build their lives around, not discipline, architecture. Now I want to introduce a concept that I think is one of the most underappreciated financial ideas in existence, and once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. It's called the Lifestyle Multiplier. It works like this. When you make a major purchase, especially one that enters your life as a permanent or semi-permanent fixture, that purchase almost never arrives alone. It brings hidden companions, costs that were never on the price tag, but that are now quietly part of your monthly reality. You buy a boat, now you need storage for the boat, insurance for the boat, maintenance for the boat, fuel, registration fees, cleaning supplies, a trailer or a slip at a marina. People with boats will tell you that the two best days of owning a boat are the day you buy it and the day you sell it. That is not a joke about regret, it is an accurate description of the lifestyle multiplier in action. You buy a larger house. Now you're heating and cooling more square footage, paying property taxes on more value, furnishing more rooms, maintaining a larger yard, cleaning more surface area. Your utility bills go up, your insurance goes up, your time spent on maintenance goes up. The house did not just cost what you paid for it. It cost everything that came with it every month, forever. You buy an expensive gym membership because the facility is genuinely impressive and you are genuinely motivated in January. Now you have a recurring charge that has a psychological weight to it. They guilt every month you don't go, a cancellation process that's been deliberately engineered to be as painful as possible, and an ongoing drain on your budget for a service that may or may not be serving you anymore. The minimalist financial rule is to calculate the full cost of ownership before you acquire anything significant. Not just the purchase price, the insurance, the maintenance, the storage, the accessories, the ongoing fees, the time required, and the hidden costs that only become visible after the transaction is complete. Ask yourself what this purchase brings with it, because almost everything brings something, and those companions are often more expensive than the thing itself. The next rule is one that sounds almost too simple to be powerful, but I promise you it is one of the most financially transformative things you can do. Define enough. Most people have never done this. They have a vague sense that they want more, that the current level is not quite sufficient, that when they reach the next income level or pay off the current debt or get the next promotion, then they'll be okay, then they'll relax, then they'll feel stable. But the next level arrives and the threshold moves, because no one ever told them to stop moving the threshold. Lifestyle creep is not a character flaw. It is what happens in the absence of a definition. When you have not clearly decided what is enough, every increase in income becomes an invitation to expand spending to match it. And since the expansion happens gradually across dozens of small upgrades and incremental improvements, it rarely feels like a deliberate decision. It just feels like things improving. Until you look at the numbers and realize that your lifestyle has grown at exactly the same rate as your income, and your margin is the same as it was 5 years ago. And despite earning significantly more, you are no more financially secure than you were when you started. Defining enough means sitting down and actually writing out with specificity what your life needs to contain for you to feel genuinely satisfied. Not the life that would impress others, not the life that matches what your peers seem to have, the life that would make you feel calm, content, and secure if you were the only person who could see it. And then committing that when your income exceeds what is required to fund that life, the excess goes to building financial optionality, not expanding the definition of enough. This is not about settling. It is about precision. It is about knowing your target instead of running toward a horizon that perpetually retreats. And that brings me to the last rule, the one I said earlier would require redefining a word. The word is wealth. Most people, if you ask them to define wealth, will describe it in terms of accumulation, how much you have, the size of the account, the value of the assets, maybe the income figure. Wealth, in the conventional understanding, is a quantity, a big enough number that means you have made it. I want to offer you a different definition, one that I think is both more accurate and more useful. Wealth is optionality. Wealth is the ability to make choices, to say no to things that do not serve you, to walk away from a job that is making you miserable without panic, to take 3 months off without financial catastrophe, to pivot your career without spending a decade recovering from the transition.
to be genuinely generous when someone you love needs help, to have the freedom at any given moment to choose what comes next. By that definition, the person with $200,000 in liquid savings and modest monthly expenses is wealthier than the person with $1 million lifestyle that requires every dollar of a $400,000 salary to maintain, because the first person has choices, the second person has obligations. Minimalism creates wealth in the truest sense of that word, not by making you earn more, but by making your life require less. Every permanent expense you eliminate increases your optionality. Every unnecessary possession you let go of reduces the footprint your life requires to sustain itself. Every upgrade you decline, every lifestyle expansion you choose not to make, every functional thing you keep using instead of replacing quietly expands the gap between what you earn and what you need. And that gap is freedom. That gap is the thing money is actually for. The people who understand this do not look wealthy by conventional standards. They're not performing it. They're living it, quietly, invisibly, in ordinary houses, in reliable used cars, with phones that work and wardrobes that do not announce themselves, and accounts that nobody else at dinner would believe if they saw the numbers. They figured out something that most of the culture is working very hard to prevent you from figuring out, that the game is not about how much you can accumulate. It is about how little you need, because the person who needs the least is the person who is the most free. And that's the whole point. The goal was never to fill your life with things. The goal was to build a life that does not require filling. Start there. Let the rest follow.